Evening, everybody. Right, we'll just have a couple of minutes for people to join us here in the room. I can actually see myself. Oh, and my kitchen roll. Oh, yeah, I can see Nikki. Yvonne's here. Beth's here. I know Beth's been very excited today. Susan's here. Hi, everyone. We'll just have a couple of minutes and give everybody a chance to join us in the room. Oh, Kim's here as well. Hello, Kim. And Virginia, nice to see you. Have you all had your tea already? I had spaghetti bolognese, veggie, and I felt very smug because it was in the slow cooker today. And I do feel particularly organised and a bit smug when I do that. Who else? We've got a few people joining now. Bev, Pamela, Franca. Hi, Els, that's my daughter. Yvonne. Really nice. Oh, and my sister, Claire. Few people joining now. And Michelle, another Claire. Hello, everyone. It's a play-along session tonight. So last week I was live and introducing the new range. So I did a lot of talking and showing, but today it's a chance for you to play along and join in. So I'll explain all of that in a minute. We've still got, oh, Jackie, Tamara, Eva, another Beverly, Rosanna. I can't read without my glasses on. I'm looking at my iPad if you wonder where I'm gazing off to in the distance. Lisbeth, Flo, Judy. Nice. Loads of you joining already. Oh, the Hubs is watching from downstairs again. I shouldn't say it again, but I hope he's done the washing up. Flo says bonsoir. And Louise has just joined. Oh, lovely. Quite a few of you already. Wonderful. We'll just give it another minute or two. Julie's just joined. Diane. Another Bev. You'll see in a minute when I turn the camera around. I've already been playing today. And you know, sometimes you've been playing a bit and it will wash off. And then you cross that point of no return. And I've got ink infusions permanently ingrained now. It doesn't wash off. I just warn you before I turn the camera around. There is a point where it just becomes like a permanent feature. You'll know that. Helen's just joined us. That's brilliant. We'll get started in a moment. So I hope you are all ready for a little play along today. So first of all, welcome to everybody, and welcome to the latecomers, because although it's nice early evening for us here in UK and parts of Northern Europe, it's silly o'clock in Australia. So I know that plenty of you catch up later on, or if you're maybe at work or doing a night shift or whatever. So welcome to everybody now. Welcome to people who are joining us later. Also welcome to any retailers here. Please do share your links underneath, and I will be referencing particular products, Paper Artsy products. If you want to share specific links to those in the group, that will be really helpful for everybody. If you're watching and wondering where your nearest Paper Artsy stockist is, because you can only buy products from your local retailer, certainly for a certain amount of time after release. So if you go to the Paper Artsy blog, at the top there is a tab that says stockist, and you can check their worldwide stockist and you can find your nearest store. So as usual, this is going to be recorded and it will stay in the group for the time being. So you will have seen some chat about this online. Facebook are now not letting us hold on to our lives for too long. So we've all been given, I think, 3 months or something to put them somewhere else. So we've got everything kind of downloaded, or we're certainly on with that. And it's undecided, I think, where we're going to put those recordings. But for the time being, You can find the recording of today's session in Paper Artsy People, and if you look under guides and look for my name, my videos are all linked there, and the same for other designers. You can always go back and find things. I will also share it to my group Create with Kate, where you'll find it in featured at the top. And if you get stuck, just find me a question and we'll help you to find it. So you can go back and catch up. Some of you don't like to play along, you like to watch, I know, and then take your time and have a go. And there are some issues around drying time and things. So let's talk about what we're doing. I want to show you how I created this background. And actually this is a really nice mix to play with because it starts with infusions. When that layer's dry, it's then got frescoes, paint on the top, and then all the top layers. So I'm going to be using, first of all, infusions, and then frescoes, paint, and then a few top layers. So if you're wanting to gather things ready, I will also use, I've got a couple of minis out, the texture minis with some ink pads. I've got my usual, never go without, white pen, Stabilo, or any dark pencil would do for a bit of mark making. And I've grabbed some crayons. And this can be anything. I've got distress crayons here. It could be Stabilo woodies or just anything for a little bit of extra mark making on top. Oil pastels, whatever you've got. Don't stress about that too much. Anything will do. So those are the extra bits that I'll be using as well. I've got a couple of backgrounds made. I'll show you these now. So these are ready made and dry. This is for me to work on and build on tonight. And here's the pink version. Just because my stuff might not be quite dry enough to play with tonight. But you can heat gun stuff at home and speed up that process. So I'm going to be using the blobby stencil. So this is stencil 453. So I said this quite a bit in my live last week, that you don't always want a specific pattern, a design as a background. Sometimes you just want random all over. So that's why I'm using this one. It's going to be completely fill the background, but it's the kind of random all over background pattern. I've prepared two lots of stamps. So I'm using the fish here, and this is KC010. But I've also prepared, and I've used this little marching birdie here, and this is KC009. And what I've done, let me just find them, I've got mine cut out and coloured in ready. Because really today's focus is about building and creating the background, and I don't want to be cutting out stamps and things on camera. It's a waste of time really. But if you're interested in how I've coloured them in, because I do have quite a specific way of colouring in, look in the guides. I did a little short 10-minute live on colouring in, and you can colour those in with just your average watercolours or infusions or my tints. It's kind of the same technique to get that colour. And let's just have a look. Here's a little birdie, look, ready coloured in as well. So I've kind of got those ready. Right, I think now, let me just check I've said everything I need to do. Oh, no, I haven't said everything. So this is actually really important. I'm using Paper Artsy Smoothie card. When I first came across this card, I didn't really understand what a difference it would make. So it is super, super smooth. I don't think it actually has a coating on, but what this card does, that I haven't found anything else that does this, you can put so much water on this and it doesn't soak in. So you know what happens normally if you spray water on card, it kind of bubbles up, it frays, it doesn't hold it on the surface. And for this technique to work, to get all of this kind of flowy effect, you need this card. So if you've tried this before and it's not working, you need the smoothie card. And if we have got any retailers, maybe you could share some links underneath. So I can guarantee you that this card really, really works. You can still get things wrong. I've got a failure to show you as well. So I've cut mine to, I don't know actually. Let me just measure it. Now this is because I would usually do this in my journal, but it's easier on loose card for this kind of thing. So it's just over 20 centimetres square, but you can work on any size. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera around now, so hold on to your hats because it's always a little bit wobbly when you do this. Last week as well, my glasses fell off my head and walloped the camera, which didn't really help. Oh, there's my nice colourful blind. My daffodils, did you see those? And because it's quite dark here still, we're not quite into spring weather, let's get some more light on. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that okay. So as I said, I've got my stamps already cut out and ready. And I'll talk about colour choices and why I've selected certain colours here as I start to build this page. But to start with, I'm going to use my infusions, quite a lot of water. Now, here's the one. So you can see this one did not work out as well. This is partly because I flooded the page with too much water, and I thought I'll just roll the kitchen roll over to blot it off, and if you blot it off you lose this effect here. So just a couple of warnings before we start. Now I'm going to start with the same colours I've just shown you. So I'm going to use two. I'm going to use slime and a little bit jaded. You can actually use as many colours as you want, but remember that these colours are going to flow and mix on this page. So if I did these two and then potentially put a red in there, or a type of red, I could make brown. So at the moment I'm just going to stick to blue and green, a nice jade and a nice slime green. And I'm using a plastic palette. Now I did get this out to show you because sometimes I mix mine in here. So these are just those cheap little travel pots you can get anywhere, like little cheapo shops. If you mix infusions and water in here, you can put the lid back on and then it stays in here. You can, and even if it dries, you can reactivate it with water. So it saves you washing your infusions down the sink, really. I'm going to mix up some colours first of all. Now often I start really, really light. So I start, you can see here I've got really pale patches. So I start with a small amount of pigment and a lot of water, because then I can add more pigment and make it darker, but then I don't kind of swamp the whole page with really dark colour. So I'm just putting some water in there first. Now here you want a damp brush. You don't want to be dripping water directly into the pot. And then just pick out a few crystals. Now I keep getting messages popping up. If anybody's friends with Caroline Ramcharan, she's struggling to find the live. So if anybody knows of her, maybe you could just give her a little hint. If not, she'll have to catch up, I think. Right, I'm going to blot that out because already crossing my colours. That's the thing about infusions, they travel, they go such a long way. You get colour forever. Right, so I've mixed there my jade and my slime. So is anybody actually playing along? Or you're just watching? I'm going to do it later. Okay, I'm going to now spray the page. Now this is what I mean about working on smoothie card. I want to get this whole page covered in a layer of water. So it's quite a lot of water, and one of the things about getting this technique right is just learning how much water you need. So, and you'll see on top of this card the water just sits. Doesn't soak in, which is exactly what we want it to do. We want it to sit on the top like that. And then I usually do a little test splat first of all, because I want this splat to travel. Right, Beth's asking, is this the heavy? I'm actually using the heavy here, but this technique works on either. So this is the three something, I can't remember. So the heavier weight one. Now, if you want it to travel a bit more, give it another splat with the water. Now, one thing I do know about this is it keeps travelling. So to start with, don't overdo it with the splats, because what will happen as it starts to dry, it travels and it spreads out, and then you'll find that you have no white space. Now, if I just go back to my one here, I do still have quite a bit of white space because I want to build on this with the stencil and the paint. So I don't want it all to be completely covered. And then I can add some green. And again, you can keep adding a little bit of water if it's not moving enough for you. Now, if you're wanting then to make it a bit darker in areas, so if I just go back to the jaded, and add a little bit more, now you can see that's quite a bit darker. And you could do the same with the green if you wanted to, but actually that's probably enough on there. So if you want to, you can tip it, you can get things moving a little bit. I love it when it starts to do this and it all starts to blend and merge. Now at this point, I would now leave that to dry. Remember, if you blot it too soon, you get that instead of that. Quite often as well, I just weight it, even with the bottles, just to keep it flat. Otherwise, you get very, very definite pools where it all gathers. If it's getting too puddly in places, like mine's getting quite puddly there, rather than blot the whole thing, you can just put a bit of tissue in and pick it up in that area. Now, if you're playing along at home, you could heat gun that now. I don't really like to do that on camera because it's noisy and it takes time, which is why I've prepared one already. But what I'm going to do is put that flat on the floor behind me. That will now dry with all of those patterns in, and then I'll get those really kind of dark areas in there as well. I'm just going to repeat that in the pinks for you while you're having a little play. Just clean up my mess already. So just a reminder of the pink colours, that I'm going to use magenta and golden sands. So remember, just a very, very lightly damp brush. Otherwise you'll turn your whole pot of infusions into liquid paint, basically. Golden Sands, I find, comes out a nice yellowy colour, slightly off Beth's asking other colour, so Golden Sands. So I'm using Golden Sands with magenta. Well, there are quite a few pinks that work really nicely. There's the raspberry, the cerise. So there is quite a few pinks that will work just as well. I'm just going to add a little bit more water to those. And then remember, you want water first because you want to give this something to travel through. Now, I'm not using these exact backgrounds today, as I said, because it needs drying time. But once these have dried, here, I will share them in the comments tomorrow. So you will get to see exactly how these dried. I'm just using an ordinary paintbrush to pick up that colour. I should move my fish, I'm going to splatter them as well. And I'm going to add a little bit more magenta into that same mix. You see that's much stronger now. And then Golden Sands. You see how that's going quite yellowy. It looks sort of browny orange when you mix it, but I find it goes really quite yellow. And now that is going to spread out as it dries. So again, I'm just going to leave that one. I'm going to put that on the floor behind me. In fact, I might just, that's going to drip there, isn't it? So remember, if you've got just a puddle you want to pick, don't block the whole thing. You'll lose all your colour. And I'm going to pop that on the floor. I'll probably turn around and step in it when the live's over and I've forgotten that it's there. And now I'm just going to have a little clear up here. So I'm going to work today on this green background to finish it off. And if you're playing along at home, you can just do that with a heat gun. It will keep your puddles nicely. Are you using a brush for each colour or cleaning in between colours? Bev's asking a question. I'm using the same brush, but I'm dipping it in a water pot in between, just to make sure I'm not, otherwise the colours will mix when I don't particularly want them to. So now I'm going to start to add to this with the stencil, but I'm going to use, so I've picked out similar colours here. Oh, and I've got the dark. So I've picked out, I'm not sure exactly which ones I'll use yet, but I've got Peacoat. These are all from Tracy Scott's range because I really like her bright colours. Her colour palette is nice and zingy. So Peacoat, Deep Sea, Slime, Cereating and Dirty Lime. So I've picked those out, and I'm also going to use quite a lot of white because that's how I get the depth of colour. And I'm going to be using some sponges. So you can use, this is the cut and foam, which I don't think is even being made anymore, cut and dry foam. You can use like little makeup brushes. You can even just brush through with a paintbrush, but you won't get such a clean image as you do if you're using sponges. Right, let me just grab some of my paints first of all. So let's see. Now when I start to stencil through this, If I've got really dark areas, like here, this is where I'm going to use a lot of white with my paint so that I'm getting nice and light on the dark. And where it's light, I want it to be darker, so I'm getting dark on the light. So it's not completely random. I'm actually thinking about where I'm going in with the colour. And I might also put blues on greens and greens on blues. I am actually then going to throw in one random colour. It might seem a bit random, but let me explain why. So I've coloured my fish in, and this one's got a lot of green, this one's got a lot of blue, this one has got quite a lot of the yellow, which almost kind of ties in with the green, but the one colour I've got on them all, which doesn't exist in my background, is pink. Pink around the eyes, pink on the cheeks, on here, pink on the tail, pink on the flowers. So to make sure that those fish don't just look like they're randomly stuck on the top, I want to bring some pink into the background as well. And I'll do that through the stencil. Right, I'm going to use a bit of Deep Sea. So to start with, I'm mixing it with some white. I'm just getting my kitchen roll ready because you just know I'm going to get really mucky. Okay, so I've mixed a slightly paler blue with that, and I'm going to go in some of these areas where it's a lighter green. You see how that's adding some pattern in there? Just seen Debbie's just joined. Hi, Debbie. Glad you could make it. So I'm just still aiming for these lighter areas. And so I'm mostly there putting blue onto green. Right, let's switch it up a bit. Let's have a bit of slime. Now slime's much lighter, but I'm still adding a little bit of white into that mix. It also helps to keep it really opaque so it sits well on the top. Now slime, being green, I'm going to put on top of the blue. And I've got a little empty patch in the middle there, so I'm going to go back. So you can see I've pretty much got that all over, but I still think it needs a bit of variation. So now what I'm going to do is just picking up a clean sponge, and this time just white. So I'm looking now for the darkest areas. So I've got quite a solid area here. So I'm going to just put some, let's just see how that looks with a bit of white there. And here, look, there's another dark bit there. Okay, so that's now pretty much covered the whole thing. But I could still... Right, I might just mix a little bit of pea coat as well, just to get... Look at me, it's no wonder I get permanent colour on my hands, is it? So a little bit darker maybe. Yeah, so you see how that's just making some of it a bit darker. So I've got the white. This isn't a black, but it's a dark, the pea coat is a dark blue. So it's just giving me more of the full range. Now when you've got acrylic paint on your stencils like this, you can either wipe that off straight away while it's wet, even with just like a wet wipe, a baby wipe. If it gets dry on there, pop it in a bucket overnight with like some vanish powder, and that will just, in the morning, it will just wipe off. Right, I'm going to move that paint out of the way now. I'm going to give that a very light, quick heat gun treatment, just so I can do the next bit. So just block your ears for a minute. Debbie saying she loves the colours, and actually the infusions and the frescoes, the colours work so well together. See how those colours just match up perfectly. Right, I'm going to do a bit of stamping next. So I've got, these are from the previous release, and actually the one before that as well. So I'm going to use this little mini. Because really, I just want some background pattern, nothing specific. So I'm not putting this onto an acrylic block because I don't want to stamp this rectangle. I'm just picking out just one corner. So it's just putting in a little bit of random pattern. So you can see it here, look, just peeping through. So one other thing I really like to do, you do have to watch your rubber stamps a bit with this, but this is the background, just a texture stamp with the gold. And you might have seen me do this before because I do this quite a lot. And this is okay on your stamps as long as you wipe it off pretty quickly. So this is the gold. And I've spread it out a little bit thinner there. I don't want to pick up a massive thick blob. I just want to lightly coat some of my stamp. Just stamped a bit of that off. It did look a little bit blobby, didn't it? So again, this is just part of the kind of overall. Let me see. It's quite. Oh, there you can see it there, look. Obviously, in daylight, this gold really shimmers. Okay, so I've just done little random bits all over. Right, just a quick heat gun again. Sorry, block your ears. And if you are playing along today and doing this live, maybe you could share some pics underneath, even if it's just like your work in progress, like now, the stage you've got to. Okay, that's it's sort of dry. I was watching Victoria Wilde's live last week, and lovely it was too, and she ironed her background. I thought, oh, never thought of that. So this afternoon I did actually iron this background flat, and it was just ready then to work on. Brilliant, really brilliant. Now I'm going to go on with my white pen now, and I just want to scribble round some of this shape. If you're a bit neat, just hold it higher up, because actually this can just be really scribbly. It works better when your backgrounds are very, very dry. Obviously mine aren't that dry. And I'm not being at all accurate here. This is scribbling. And you can even add extra, just little random marks. Rebecca's saying that's a great idea. Yeah, and actually it does just define things a little bit, and especially if it's got a bit muddy. See here, look, it's got a bit muddy there. That shape's a bit lost. Just going round those, it just kind of pulls them out a little bit. So I'll just give you a few seconds to catch up there. I want to add a bit of pink. So remember when I said, because all of my fish have got a bit of pink on, at the moment there's nothing to connect my fish to the background. So I just want to, I'm going to go back to my, now then, let's have a look. Cherry red, that should do it. I don't want it to be red, I want it to be pink. And now I'm just going to, just in 2 or 3 areas, maybe 3 areas, just a bit of pink like that. You'll notice I've switched stencils. That's because my stencil isn't clean. It's still got wet green paint on. I just don't want that to interfere with my pink. Okay, so this background's getting really quite dense now. But if you want to. Now you might look at your background and think it doesn't need anything else, it's fine. But sometimes it's quite nice just to add a touch of extra colour. And I wouldn't do this on all of them, I might just pick out some of those shapes. Yeah, and Debbie's saying that just pops. Do you know, it really does. And if I just go back to this original one, you can see quite clearly where I've gone in with some of that. Well, it can be anything. Oil pastel, your crayons, your Stabilo woodies, whatever really. It's just that extra bit of colour. And I do think it works really well with your pink and red shades. So I'm not covering the whole thing, I'm just adding a little bit, really just at the top of each shape. Let me see if I can just get that a bit closer for you so you can see. So there you can see how I'm just adding a little bit of colour on the top. But now I'm going in with the much stronger black. You've got to be quite brave here. If you're going to go in with black, you've just got to go for it. But I find a bit in the corners really helps to kind of give everything a bit of balance. You can't be shy with it. Okay, right, let me move this paint out of the way. So now when it comes to adding my top layer, which is my fish. So I've coloured 3 fish. And I want to give it the sense of it travelling over the whole page and this continuity. Yeah, Rebecca saying she loves how I build up the backgrounds. Yeah, and do you know, I always say I don't do anything hard, I just do a lot of layers. And I think you can always add more. So I never say never. I'm never quite sure when enough is enough. So I've overlapped 2 fish here. And what I would do is stick that one down very flat, and I would raise this one with some of that, you know, the 3D foam stuff. But this one, I'm going to cut in half. So if you were watching the live last week, I was saying this, that if you, when you want something to appear overall and as if it's continuing, to bring things off the page, so you don't need to colour extra ones. This one here is now swimming in, and this one is swimming out. But again, last week I was talking about these little flower shapes. So these ones are part of this set here. And I added these ones because these are great space fillers. So I've got my fish in position there, but it sort of needs just some extra little bits here. It balances things out. And I've also got some slightly different ones. That's off the floral set. And then sometimes I find this just fell out of my little packet I was playing with today. It's just a random bit. I've no idea really where it came from, but sometimes that just works anyway. And that would be my layout pretty much complete. One thing I might, so going back to Rebecca's comment about building up backgrounds. So something else I might just do to finish off is with just like a bottle lid and that gold. we have it. I'll probably finish that with a quote. Now, I don't think you really need to see me sticking things down. So what I'll do, when everything's dry there, I will stick it all down and then I will share it in the comments, probably tomorrow when I've had a chance for it to dry and to stick everything down and you can see that page finished. But let's just have a look. Let me move a few bits out the way. So it doesn't just have to be swimming fish. So this kind of all over design. So I've got my little walking birdies. Obviously I haven't got all the background and everything on here, but just to show you how other stamp designs can work. And here's the one I've cut in half. So he's marching on. And this one is kind of marching off. Or again, you could overlap them a little bit. Whatever, you could have a play. But then I think they just need, for it to make sense, because otherwise they're kind of floating in the air. This is a bit of Dural art that I've scribbled on, put marks on with Sharpie. You've probably seen me doing that in previous videos. Actually, they just need something to stand on. Now, even though the bit that they're standing on is floating in midair, it still makes more sense than having just the birds walking on basically fresh air. My goodness, this stuff is hard to pick up. And obviously I haven't finished all of these, but then what I would do you can just bring in your little space fillers. So it's not just for fish. You could have anything there, but if it's not technically something that's swimming, maybe just give it something to stand on. It could be anything. It could be a little bit of vintage text. It could be a bit of scrapbook paper. It could even be a stamp on there, just so that they've got something to kind of stand on. It just makes a little bit more sense when you look at it. Now I'm just going to bring this one back into view. And there we've got the 2 pages. And I think now when you look at these side by side, you can see on this background, compared to this background, how much more depth there is here just by all of that sponging paint through the stencil. And I'm just going to have a look now, just before I finish. There's my background as it's drying. And there's this one as it's drying. So they'll be getting lots more layers very soon. I do hope you have enjoyed playing along. Has anybody got any questions? Now, if you don't know, there's a slight delay on Facebook. If you ask a question, I don't see it for a few seconds. If you've got any questions, then you can ask them now. I will go back and double check in case I've missed any questions along the way. Sometimes I get distracted playing. I'll just share this one thing with you before I finish. But if you do look back at my colouring, what was that? I've just missed that. Sorry, is the used to be in a link, please. Right, yes. What I'll do, I'll share everything underneath. So Debbie's asking a question about colours. So when I've hit the end button, I'll go in and I'll link the colours that I have used. Now this one has been coloured with Infusions, and again this works really well on the smoothie card because the colours aren't soaking in fast as you're trying to blend and pool them. So it's the same technique with these little patches of colour. So look in the guides section. I've done a video in there, one of the little short 10-15 minute ones of how to colour in those images. Oh, thanks for leaving some lovely comments. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so I'll finish very shortly. I'm going to check through for any questions. If you've got any questions afterwards, you can still put them on this post and I will go back and have a look and answer anything. And as somebody's already asked, I've forgotten already, I will put the colours in a comment underneath. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody. And I do hope you've had fun playing along. And if you've done this background or you've played along today, please share it in the comments. I mean, I know that might not be tonight because you'll still be faffing about doing it, but maybe when it's finished tomorrow or just even work in progress, share it in the comments and let's see what you've all been doing. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.